So now we'll introduce our guest speaker. Philip Roberson III is an employer engagement consultant with George Mason University Career Services, bringing nearly a decade of experience in higher education, including financial aid, admissions, and career counseling. A graduate of James Madison University and George Mason University, Philip discovered his passion for professional development during his counseling studies and has since dedicated his career to supporting students, particularly those in the creative industries. At Mason, he collaborates with employers, leads signature initiatives such as Creative Arts Industry Week, and helps students strengthen their professional brand. Philip is an active community member, engaging on social media, moderating a LinkedIn group for creative students, and hosting the Positive Filter podcast, which explores career development, mental health, family, relationships, and the positive reframing of everyday situations. A proud husband and father, he is also a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, and was honored as both a 2024 40 Under 40 recipient and the National Association of Colleges and Employees, NACE, 2024 Mentor of the Year. Mr. Wilkerson is here today to talk about different types of leadership and how leadership can happen at all levels of the organization. Mr. Wilkerson.
First off, I hate that when they keep that biology like training. This is so perfect because I've never thought of myself as that. And also, I know that I'm in between y'all and food, so now I have two things to follow. So hopefully you enjoy this presentation. Yeah, Phil Wilkerson, nice to meet everyone here. And I wanted to talk about my experience with leadership and hopefully the ways that we all can be leaders. So I always like to start off with the demystification of leadership. How many people have like high achieving parents? How about high achieving grandparents? Right? So I have the great pleasure and the curse of generational excellence, right? Not generational curse, but generational excellence. So as you can see right here, this gentleman that kind of looks like me, I think a little bit better looking, is Colonel Philip Linwood Wilkerson Jr. And I say that very specifically, Colonel Philip Linwood Wilkerson Jr., because my dad always told me our full name makes a difference. Philip with one L makes a difference. And this guy with the high top, which I think we should bring back, is me pinning my dad at his commander when he was getting a promotion. I don't think that was full third, I think that was major, right? And to add to that, he was one of the first black students to go to Vietnam, class of 72. And so think about that, right? The pillars that he had, he's the first. He did something monumental. And then on the other side is my mother's father, Dr. Charles James. Now, think about this generationally. Dr. Charles James graduated from McHarry Medical College in 1956. Okay, all right, think about that. He was a father to 7 kids, including my mom, in Charlotte, North Carolina. He was a pillar in the community that when he passed away, his alma mater, Johnson C. Smith, made like a whole big to-do about it. And, you know, just was the man. And so now I have these two things. Like, I was like, first of all, I'm not a doctor. I'm scared of blood. That makes me sick, right? I definitely don't like the military. I remember when I was born, I had a provisional appointment to go to Vietnam. I went to this camp, I said, this place is like prison. Ain't no way I'm going to Vietnam. And so I grew up with this mystification that leadership looked like these two men. I grew up saying, I don't do any of those things. I didn't go to any of those colleges. I'm not a doctor, not a lawyer bus. There's no way I could be a leader. There's no way I can follow in these footsteps, right? I can try my best, but there's no way that I can be the people that I put on the pedestal. But then as I come to find out, and we're going to share a little bit later, that demystification changed. I still am able to put those gentlemen on a pedestal of some sort, but I also can elevate me and be on the step stool with them. I think about this. How many people watch The Wizard of Oz? Right? And you see the wizard and all that, and he's like the big birds and all that, right? And he's like, it's the wizard. And he pull out the curtains. This guy just chaotically doing stuff, right? Well, as I became an adult and studied leadership, I realized they were all wizards. We all put on this big show with flames and all this, but we pull back the curtain. We're all people trying our best and trying to portray leadership. And so, as I go through this presentation, I'm going to share that as I found who I was in my journey, I'm still honoring my dad and my grandfather, but I'm doing it in my own way, and hopefully you'll find that you can do it in your own way as well. So, things to think about is we always think that leadership is its polarization. Either you're a leader or you're not. But I like to think of it on a spectrum. It is a thing that we all, maybe we're more effective leaders and poor leaders, but we're all on that spectrum, if that makes sense. Right? We're all leaders, and it's more so about the usage of leadership, the experience we grow. I like video games, so when you think about that, what is in video games? You get EXP points, right? And so let's say in my journey, when I was starting as a leader, I had 0 X points. But then as I go through, I join committees. I do things like this, and I get 2 points here, 3 points here, 4 points there. And my experiential points, I level up in my leadership. So I'm still on that spectrum, and we're all growing. We just have different levels of points. We have different levels of experience. I also like to say that no one, regardless of the video game or not, no one's ever going to be at 100%. No one's perfect in leadership. Even with the experience points, no one gets that perfect 100. How many people play Madden? I like to do questions. How many play Madden, right? In Madden, they never give any player 100% on any category. Did you know that? So if you go play Madden, go look at your top players. Everyone is a 99. Meaning no one's perfect, right? They might say, this player has 99 awareness, this, and this, but no one's 100. And so that's the same spectrum that we're on. No one's 100. We're going to get experiences to get more points to move us on that spectrum. I think strategic thinking is a growable skill, but it's a skill that I think we use all the time. Think about how many times we plan logistics. Think about, I was doing a project management certificate, and they asked about, technically everyone's a project manager if you got kids. Because then you gotta, smart goals, you gotta talk about when you gotta get there and move and pivot, right? And so that is a skill that we all have, the ability to think strategically, to think about creative ways and solutions, to think about benchmarks and goal setting and all that. We're doing it every day. And so that is a growable skill. It is not, once again, that experience point is not one or the other. And then lastly, I like this, quick math, quick math here, is that we can improve through these two things, investment and experience. So think about skill building. If I invest in a skill, plus put more experiences, I will improve. That's a very simple concept, but it's one that people do not think about all the time. So similar to that, if I practice the skills of leadership, delegation, and if I practice the skills of public speaking, if I practice the skills of conflict resolution, plus the investment of building those skills, professional development, plus actually do real life experiences, I'm just naturally going to improve. That's by science, right? And so think about those spaces in which you're exhibiting those skills to gradually improve over time. So there's a thing I said earlier that I was awarded NACE, which is the National Association of Colleges and Employers, and they have a thing called career competencies. And also, I kind of melted it together. I'm in Leadership Fairfax right now, and we have these modules of different things in leadership. And so I kind of took what I thought were ways that I like to grow. This is me personally. And I think about these things, and think about this for yourself. Are these kind of pockets at level 99 are different ones that you can work on throughout your life and get better at. So I have conflict resolution, right? We do it all the time. How do I mediate awkward situations? How do I work with people that are different from me? How do I bring people together and solve problems? So we're dealing with conflict all the time. Conflict is normal. Conflict is growth. I think I talked to someone earlier, they're a transformation person, transformation and management. Change is hard. Change is going to have conflict, right? And so you're naturally going to have, building that experience just by title alone and being in that role, you're going to grow that skill of conflict resolution. So think about that. Communication, public speaking. I invested in Toastmasters. I've gotten more comfortable. I say my phrase that I say is duck in water. Duck in water means right now I'm nervous and I don't know what. My feet are moving this, but I'm learning how to present that I'm not, right? That's a skill. We build that through experience. You know, people that are deathly ill, not deathly ill, but really anxious about public speaking, exposure therapy, just put that into practice. Go to situations where you have to talk in front of people. That's where you'll gain experience. Will you be perfect at it? No, but you'll get better. Technological literacy. I think this is just one that we all should know. People say, oh, you know, AI and all this stuff. I'm not a computer person, yeah, but at the end of the day, you don't want to be, 7 years old asking your kids how to fix a printer. You know what I'm saying? I think about that right now all the time. It's like, I'm never going to let technology outgrow me in my capacity. I'll just be up on how to use something because the world is changing and I don't want to get left behind. So being literate doesn't mean you have to be an expert, but have the familiarity of using these tools within leadership. Project management, I shared that earlier. We use that all the time. Team building and delegation, bringing people together. You can't do anything in isolation. You can't do anything alone. It is a strong skill to bring people and corral people, to also understand delegation. You can't do everything alone. So having that ability to let go of things and trust others to give them to do it and hope that they can do it. And so that is a skill that you build. And then time management. Luckily, I was on time today, right? Maybe. I don't know. I'm sitting on skill all the time. I have to share my mom's a doctor, but she was always late. I give her, I blame her for that, you know what I'm saying? So, but that's a skill I actually have to put into practice. What are some mechanisms showing up on time and setting timers and all that? These are all skills. And so when I thought about this, and as I level up, I realized that I invested. I can go back to the examples of my father and maybe and my grandfather in ways that did exhibit all these building skills themselves. So, as I shared earlier, I'm a member of Toastmasters, and sometimes I really think that it's helpful to learn about the different types of leadership. There's over 1,000 leadership groups. There's 1,000, right? That just shows that there's not one way to lead. Someone says transformation leadership, change leadership, inclusive leadership. There are all these different pedagogies and methodologies, right, that people study to talk about leadership. And so these are just a few examples of certain ones, but they're not all, right? And I think similar to that, how about this video game reference? Similar to that way that you build your armor or whatever, you find little pieces of each leadership style that fits you. You know, I'm not the same exact leader as my father. I could share earlier that I remember with my dad when he came back from Desert Storm, and thousands of soldiers, because he was a battalion commander, and thousands of soldiers would salute him, and, yes sir. I was like, I don't like being called sir. It makes me feel weird. That's not my type of leadership, right? I'm a servant leader, right? Well, my grandfather, I would say, he was charismatic and charming, but I'm awkward. I don't have that same, I don't have that same, the same charisma as my grandfather. But there's modality and taking things from different people. So when I went through the Toastmasters training, they shared these very broad ones, and these are the ones that I liked and I kind of gravitated to. So I don't know, the graphics only align with the picture. I use AI, I ain't gonna lie. I try to do that, John. It's like, whatever, man. Let me just put these slides together. But I will tell you all these different ones. So bureaucratic, that's more so do as I say, not as I told. And ideally, it's supposed to be the picture of a parent up there, where it is, this modality works where we have more experience than others. You have to have people that blindly trust us and you say, I'm doing this for your sake. So in the bureaucratic thing, leading down, there's just no question. I'm your parent, like, I know. When I hold my hand across the street, we just won't do it. Don't ask me why, I know. And then obviously maybe you can explain it later. So that's bureaucratic. Authoritative, which is high, right, is the military, very hierarchical, right? There is a system top down, visionary. I like the patent one, we're gonna follow orders. There is a little bit of leading up in the military, but there's still a chain of command, right? Think about like, you can't supersede this, that is very authoritative. Innovative, this could also just be another phrase for the word thought leadership. So this is when we think of Steve Jobs. He was the visionary for Apple, but he had an interdisciplinary team of different people and experts. He was like, here's my vision for Apple and the device, but I need the best IT person. I need this. I need this finance person. So you're the driver of thought. You're the driver of a creative idea, but you also listen. You have a council, You need to, intellectually connect with other people, so thought leadership. Pace setting, this is mostly aligned with, that actually works for track. How many people ran track? Do you remember doing 400 repeats? Horrible. I hate it. 400 repeats. You ran on 400. The coach goes, all right, you ran on 400 in 50 seconds. That was pretty good for me. 50 seconds. All right, you're going to run that lap again, and I'm only going to let you do it in 55 seconds, right? And so the pace was, he was setting an objective. I had to keep it, and he was monitoring me. I was doing the work. This is a project management kind of basically. You have to know when to put your foot on the gas and not, but this is pace setting. You set the pace. I don't know, it's supposed to be a politician around here, but you say families, politics, whatever. So, Democratic, you are elected by the people, you are the voice of the people. Ideally, in a full democracy, you're supposed to answer the people and represent them. So, while you're the face in this leadership style, you are really appointed by the people, right? You're a representative of a larger constituency, a larger group. Affiliative, I like to say this one, it's like keyword goes with affiliation. So how many people think like, I said I was a member of Alpha Phi Alpha, right? I go into space, right now, I might be the man, Brother Wilkerson. But if I'm in this space, y'all can care less if I'm in Alpha Phi Alpha, right? And that means that leadership is affiliated with some form of space, right? Think about like, I'm a leader in my church. Well, I think that might hold more weight as it's affiliated to that church. That's affiliative. Coaching is kind of what it is that you are giving guidance to others, and once again, you're not telling people, you kind of talk to you, but they have to put it in practice, right? You're a guide. That kind of aligns with your mentorship. One of my favorite stories in March Madness said, I'm a UNC fan, but one of my favorite coaching stories about Dean Smith is that when he was retiring, he said that I'm not just a coach of basketball, I'm a coach of men. I develop men. And one of my favorite stories is that when he passed away, he had put a lot of money in a fund, an endowment. And when he passed away, every varsity letter, whether it was the walk-on to Michael Jordan, got $200 and got a letter that said, please take your wife or family out to dinner. And I thought about that. That's really kind, right? Think about that, but it's also practicing life that, regardless of your status, the thing is humility, regardless of your status, be grateful for the people around you. He was still, even from the grave, he was coaching and giving life lessons. So that's one of my favorite. And then altruistic, that's what it is, servant leadership. You're really just volunteering, you're committed to the volunteerism, and then by happenstance, people follow your lead. Right? Like you're picking up boxes, you're going to the kitchen, and people say, oh, you're doing really well, and you really didn't do it to be a leader, you're just doing it, and people think that they'll follow you. And so in this modality, I can go through each one of these and see ways that one, my father touched on all these, one's ways that my dad touched on these, and ways that I touched on these, showing that it didn't matter that I'm not a doctor or a military colonel. I'm doing this in my life, day to day, whether it's formally in work, whether it's in volunteerism, whether it's through my alpha affiliation, or whether it's at my work level, which we're going to go into next. But we do these things every day. I think the main thing is the demystification of leadership and the ability to look and recognize when am I actually putting into practice leadership stuff that I'm not even thinking about, just by living and breathing and being. So I like to put in there, right, some other things to think about when you're affiliated. Think about you're keeping harmony and morale. So think about the spaces when you were in your strategic planning team, where you were probably practicing this, and you didn't know it, but you were keeping people together. You were making sure the morale was good. How you doing, You're doing well. Celebrating wins as a team. Whether, when you celebrate that in a group of four, that is leadership in practice. Think about this, building future skills for others. If you think that maybe when you ask someone within your team, hey, I have trouble with this Excel spreadsheet. Hey, come over here, let me give you 30 minutes, I'll show you how to do it. You're actually coaching them, you're mentoring them. That's leadership in practice. Whether it doesn't have to be a full work training to all your staff members, when you pull someone aside and help someone next to you, you're actually practicing coaching and mentorship. and it's service. I think, like I said, think about this when you're doing something, you're connected to a cause. That's service. I usually think most leaders connect all their roles to service in some form or fashion. So a doctor, besides making a lot of money, but they thought, as a doctor, I serve the community and heal people. Service. As an educator, I teach people. As a firefighter, I serve the community and keep people safe. There is an aspect of service to every single job that we have. You think, oh, I'm just doing a spreadsheet or bills or accounting. I make sure that money is spent correctly, that the money goes to the populations that it needs to. That is service. That is service. So there's a servitude to everything. And community. Additionally, we're in little democracies all the time. We have compromises. We represent other voices all the time. Maybe you're the team leader. Maybe you're the one person on a committee that you were chosen by your supervisor. That's someone, you're the voice of a larger body. So therefore, in that space, you are a democratic leader. And think about how many times we have to come to a consensus as a group. So we're practicing that. It doesn't have to be as formal as I move and motions, but there's definitely times, hey, what do y'all think? Let's, take show of hands. That's basically voting, right? We're doing this all the time. Innovative, we're all being creative. We're all doing it. Wow, let's look at this solution differently. And then, once again, like the Steve Jobs example, I'm not an expert on this, but my friend is. I got the vision, the idea, but I need to collaborate with someone that's more of a subject matter expert, but I still have this innovative, creative way to go about it. We're practicing innovative leadership. And then I think, what it is. Sometimes we gotta tell other people what to do. And there's still, regardless of all systems, there's still levels to agency, levels to power. I think when we think about the word deference, in certain spaces, I know someone is more experienced. Just by default, I prefer to them. And so, there's still levels of that. And so, we're doing this all the time. We're creating this all the time. And no matter what, regardless of your spaces, you are on the spectrum of leadership. So, at Career Services, we like to think of this real phrase: majors do not equal career, skills equal career. So I like to give a guess. A lot of people guess, what do you think my undergrad major was? You didn't say it in the Bible, did you? No, you didn't. Okay, we don't think. Let's throw it out real quick. Any guesses? No guesses? Anthropology, that's close. Keep on going. I thought someone was going to say something nerdy, like computer science or something. Huh?
Economics.
Economics. One more guess?
Political science.
Close. History. History. I have no job in history. My dad was like, you sure you want to study that? I was like, I don't know. The class looked at the chicken and got an A, and I'm not a teacher, And it's funny, once again, turning to my dad studied history, but he already knew he was going to the military, so it didn't matter. But what skills did I gain out of history? I gained the skill of reading comprehension. Very simply, read something, interpret it. Presentations. I had to do classroom presentations. Paper, writing, synthesis, writing stuff. Contextual knowledge that I use all the time. I'm always asked before I do anything, what did they do before this? We're doing a strategic plan. I'm on a strategic plan, which we'll get to later. I'm like, what do we do before this? Before I do anything moving forward, I want to get the picture. Like, was this successful? Or, before I go to the office, sometimes I'm like, who was the first speaker? That's his history, those skills, right? So we might think about skills do not equal career. Majors do not equal career, skills equal career. And so think about that. But I like to take it a step further and say titles do not equal leadership. Titles do not equal leadership. Now, titles may have certain rules and responsibilities and duties, but it does not denote leaders, right? I think the main thing I like to say is skills do. I'll do a thing. I'm a chaplain. I'm a chaplain of my chapel in Alpha. I am not ordained at all. I don't have a pocket of holy water. I had to open use the Bible, when I use the Bible, do the Bible verse, I like to guess, like trying to figure out leadership. Google Bible verse about leadership. But there's skill sets that they thought I was good enough to be chaplain. Public speaking, morale building, genuine empathy. I do check on people. I care. I'm really nice. Hopefully, I think I am. And so those skills were why I was chosen or elected by my chaplain to be a leader in that space, not more so a certain parameter or degree or whatever. And so think about that in your space. When people diminish themselves and say, I'm not the CEO, like, no, you can still practice finance. You still can practice strategic thinking, regardless of the title on that job. And I talk to these young people all the time at George Mason, where they're doing student leadership. They say, oh, the president. I was like, if you really think about it, you're just hosting Zoom meetings. Like, minimize this scary thing about titles and leadership to more so the action and tasks and skills. It will feel less intimidating, I swear. And then skill sets that drive it. I like to think too, when I'm going into an action that requires a certain type of leadership, I look at the duties that are included and look at the bullets, but then I do look at whether there's a chaplain or whatever. I'm like, I think, what do I need to do to be good at it? Not what skills do I need to be good at? Do I need to be better at my time management to be better at chaplain? Do I need to be more well-read or have more literacy with the Bible? Do I need to be more organized? I send a monthly newsletter. All right, do I need to set up a system to send out this monthly newsletter to the chapter and have a plan, project management? So I think more so when I see something I got to do, I don't look at the title, I'm looking at the duties and say, what skills do I need to complete this and be the best at that position and that time? And that skill sets drive me. I like to say this to you one more time. We do a lot of strategic plans for large organizations, but how many people have goals or strategic plans for themselves? Thank you. I got an Excel spreadsheet and tracker. Things I want to do, and I have categories. I made a strategic plan for myself, what I want to do. So we can make that happen and be strategically planning on a micro scale, and that takes a skill set. And then you look at it, what do I need to be better to execute my individual strategic plan? I'd like to see some of y'all, maybe after this we connect, maybe you'll have a better spreadsheet. I'll keep going, making it up, vision boards and stuff, but some people are way more organized, and that's how I've learned and got better. So this is another case study. I like to call myself, I think you've forgotten that bio, I'm the unofficial mayor of Mason. Did I get voted? No. I made that up myself. I made it to myself. I was playing around. I'll tell you a quick story. I was playing around, and we were talking about how we can use ChatGPT and AI, and I was like, at George Mason, I know a lot of people I talk, and someone was like, Phil, man, you talk to everybody. You the facility guy, and all the students said, you're the mayor. I was like, yeah, I'm the mayor of Mason. That sounds cool, because it sounded cool. So what I did is, I took a job description of a small town mayor with a population of 40,000, and I talked about myself. I made myself a fake job description, and I actually printed it out. And it was engage constituents, help support students, show up to stuff and just kiss babies and don't do nothing and wait, right? All these different things, right? Be the Brandon Mason. But what it did for me is that when I get nervous in certain spaces, when I think I'm about to enter, I really say to myself, man, you're the mayor, man. I go there and I'm the mayor of Mason. And I keep on, I would introduce myself as that, hey, I'm full of career services, just by the way, I'm an unofficial mayor of Mason. I say unofficial because I don't want to get sued by Mason. I don't have the little logo, you see I don't have the logo on there, I ain't trying to get the office of brain. I ain't trying to get sued out here. But I would say that, right? I would walk in that space and say, what? And similar to my father and similar to my grandfather, I would say, what are the things I need to do? Like the persona I need to have in this space, and the skills. So I say, I'll be confident when I talk and look people in the eye. I'll say, I'll be as a mayor, I'll say that I'll get back to you, get my people on it, right? And my people is, if I don't know the answer, I'll get someone else that knows and connect people, right? I'll wear logos and act like when I'm out in public that I'm representing the university in a positive light. And so I just kept on walking around. This is 2023 or so. And if you talk to some people, they'll say, "What's up, Mr. Mayor?" Some people roll their eyes. I remember I was at a lunch with the president of Mason, and they actually put that and said, "Philip Wilkerson, the unofficial mayor of Mason," and my wife at the table was like, "This guy." Right? But it is what it is. And also, it gave me confidence to support students. Students started going, "Yo, that's Phil, he know everybody, he's the mayor," right? And the thing I want to share that, yes, I will say it is very like, man, Phil just wants to boost himself and ego boosting. But I will say for me, it actually came from a place of the opposite, of that doubt and that insecurity that I had earlier. And this is my Superman cape. This is my go into the booth and come out transformed, and I'm someone, and I can walk any space. And I try to do that now when I go into other spaces, like this one today, and I say, okay, here you go, Mayor of Mason. I'm gonna put it in a presentation. And so I want to say, how does this connect that? This connects whatever you need to do to get you pumped up in your respective spaces, in your strategic plan, do it. This is my goofy way of doing it, but this is the way to say, once again, leadership's for everybody. Everyone is on the spectrum of leadership. Everyone has the capacity to be a leader, and you just build your own experience points and be the leader that you want to be. We go back. One more story I like to share. I like to share stories. I remember that I practiced public speaking. I practiced. I go to Toastmasters, and my father-in-law, who I love dearly, passed away, right? And I lived with him. I took care of him. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to do his eulogy. And I think beyond this, I kind of wrote the outline. But for that one, I practiced it. I swear I practiced it 7, 8 times. I did it in a Toastmasters meeting. They said, Philip, because we were supposed to practice. I said, this morning, I said, hey guys, it's okay. I know you heard it last week, but I really want to do well. I really want to do well for this eulogy for my father-in-law. So I practiced it walking. I practiced it standing up. And what I would do is I would say, this is the one speech that I want to do word for word, without, I had no notes, nothing. I want it to be tight. I want it to be so tight. And so the funeral came. The funeral was on campus. Once again, unofficial mayor, finessing him. I got them to use Harris Theater and give us that space for his service. And I went up, and I was just I didn't call it flow state, whatever. I just talked. I did it, right? I did it, and I was looking at my anger. I couldn't look at my wife because it's her father. I was like, I want to cry. So I just looked at one of his closest friends, and she was giving me a thumbs up and going, and I was finished. And my dad come up to me and said, "Dang, I didn't know you could talk like that." And it was like, and I thought about that at that moment. The person, he saw it, but it was like, that was the moment where I'm like, I compared this leadership and this spectrum to someone that doesn't know the Dunkin' water and the work that I put in. I didn't tell them that I practiced it 6 times. I didn't tell them that. And so I think about that in a sense to share this story is that you're also in this skill building and this leadership growth. You have to believe you're a leader because sometimes people on the outside are not going to see the work we put in. They're not going to see the investment in the skills you did. They might see it in the afterwards, like they might see the final product and say, wow, I didn't know you could speak like this. But they didn't see the journey that it took you to get there. And inversely, when you see people like my father or like my grandfather, you didn't see their journey. You didn't see their journey. I finally got my grandfather's transcripts. I thought my grandfather got straight A's in medical school. This guy had C's and C pluses, but he got it done, right? And so, I didn't know his journey. I saw the final product. Now, sorry, I say that, but that's what you see that. Right? Anyone catch that? That's what it is. But, yeah, thank you. But the point is, we didn't see that. And so I will say this. When you're trying to be a leader for yourself, one thing is, you're not always going to be valued or always get credit for it. You're also not going to see the journey or the end result. They might, and if they do see the end result, they might not even say anything. They might even say, oh, I saw that you became a better speaker or a better planner or better with time management. So with that spectrum, we should do it for yourself. Be a better leader for yourself. Be a better leader for things that you care about. I care about making sure that I presented my father-in-law in good life. I didn't care about being a better, I was practicing the skill of it, but the objective for me was to be better for a service, to serve him. And so that's something to think about as you go on in your leadership journey. So I love that we're talking about strategic plan. Strategic plans are awesome. And we actually did one. We did a strategic plan in our office. And similar to the model, our office at George Mason Career Services, we were not required to do one. This is something that our executive director wants to do proactively to lead. So that's a positive. 2, she does not dictate items on a strategic plan. I'm on now, this is my first year being on the strategic planning team, but mostly when we do a strategic plan, she corrals us and we buy in and create it together. She doesn't just say, blah, 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 we're doing this. It's a committee. And then afterwards, which I'm going to share now, after we do it as a committee, she divides and conquers and says, okay, we have an office of about 40 people. You are team of 4. You're responsible for this action item / year 1, year 2, year 3 goal. And when she breaks us up into teams, I'll say this is kind of comparable. She mixes us all up. People that we normally don't work with in our office. So on my team was a student worker that, that's going to be there temporarily. We have me, that's on the employer relations team, a career advisor, right? So different perspectives. And she said, okay, go. And we have to meet together and all that and then report out and do things. And she mixes it up with items that may make us, I want to say uncomfortable, like for the career advisor person, they have no interaction with employers, but they know certain skills about event planning. So we are like a dream team and we are hodgepodge and we're doing things that may be in our wheelhouse or things that are uncomfortable. It's regardless because she broke us up to make us all buy into our strategic plan. And so ours was leverage alumni base to facilitate mentorship connections and alumni and students to come, right? So there's the goal, and then we have to execute, and we had to report out. So, some of them was like, we're gonna host a networking event. So at the beginning of 2023, 2024, because that was the end of that, we hosted the first ever alumni and student mixer, which was where we invited alum of all different identities and students, and we said that this was not a career fair, this was to just increase the student social capital. Success, this coming up April, we're gonna do our 3rd one. But that was part of our goal. We was gonna try it for the first time and did all this stuff, and we had to learn how to connect with alumni services. Once again, we could not do it alone in isolation. So some of these goals have to be collaborative outside of our unit. Year 2, we had to keep on partnering and programs like we did. Now we did webinars. We made sure we offered webinars for alum and students throughout the year to continually foster that relationship, to strengthen the alumni base and connect our students to alum a little bit better. And then year 3, we're going to wrap it up, but just build upon. And now that we have year 1 and year 2, we're going to say, from year 1 and year 2, how do we make the last year of the strategic plan the strongest one, right? So we had things to come out. And so we were on a dream. I would say we were the dream team. We did it, we had to send it to y'all. We had to bi-monthly, we had to report to everyone else on our office about what our little group was doing. We had to have numbers. We would have to work with a person in our office, the statistics, like when we do a site visit, we would have to pull the students' identities and cross-reference it with how they identify the registrar to have data to back up. And so I'm not a data person, but we have to figure it out, right? We have to learn new things and new skills. And across that level, that student worker is getting real experience just as much as me. So when that student worker graduates, they can say, I participated on a strategic plan. And so that's kind of the things to think about when we're going into these strategic planning. Is this opportunity to elevate yourself and your skill sets. I had to learn how to be more fluent in Excel because I would get the little mini data for our little project so that we can report it out to the bigger project, right? And so it's just right, let's cross-reference it. I had to work on my consensual skills and connect with people with other offices and get buy-in and delegation. So we, as a small team of 4 on our strategic planning team, we got to all build ourselves up as leaders, as participants of this team. all right? And so that's really helpful in that sense. So I'd like to just wrap up is that leadership is at the front lines. Leadership happens every day. Leadership happens in your spaces. I think once we came macro to micro, think about my contributions to the larger organization or system matters. And so don't think, oh, I'm just doing this. Think about it. Like, I sometimes say, like, do the if this, then this, then this. And do that for the things that you did. So if I didn't do this today, then we'll fall apart. And give yourself that agency. I think about, like, if I didn't turn this in, then this would happen, then this would happen, then this. If I didn't show up today, then this would happen. You will realize that even within, say the cog in the wheel, well, that is still, even a little cog can break a whole lawnmower, right? One bolt can break a whole machine, right? And so think about that. You do have a function. If you are misplaced, if you are not working efficiently, if you're not using your skills, the machine will fall apart. And you are contributing to something bigger than yourself. And so that's something to think about. And then I think strategy with every action. Every action. Every day I am practicing leadership. Every day I'm practicing leadership. And I think about that in the sense that the skills. So leadership. Coaching my son's sports teams. Leadership. Pickup and logistics from school to the bus. Leadership. Showing up on time. Leadership. Having my kids not fight with each other. They fight on conflict resolution. What I'm saying? Like, all these things. I am practicing. I'm getting my points. I'm leveling up in my leadership journey every single day. And so I hope that you think about that too, in those things. And I would encourage you to look up the NACE competencies and look at the little things that you do. I will tell you right now, I bet you can connect it to real life examples, not just work of how you do leadership every day. So I'm going to finish with a quick story. And I don't know, this kind of how this kind of pulled together. How many people have seen the movie Moana? All right. And you know that story was actually based in reality, right? So there were Polynesian people in Polynesian culture that were wayfinders. Did you know that they would actually traverse thousands and thousands and thousands of miles using the wind? They didn't have no motorboats, right? And so, it's like, that's crazy, right? And so think about, I love this story, I love the end of the story about journeys and leadership. So there was a student and there was a teacher. And so the student was getting ready, right? And it was fixing knots and spearing fish and doing all this stuff that they had to do. And comes back to their teacher and says, hey, you see me, I'm ready, I'm ready to go on my journey. And the teacher's like, okay, see that? Where's Tahiti? And the teacher, the student's like, Tahiti? Why are you asking me what Tahiti is? And the person was like, all right, you're not ready, go back and train some more, all right? And so they went back, and was like, how we do when we get told we're ready for something, we're not ready, and we're grumbling. And I'm like, I'm gonna show them, and you do it, and you invest in yourself, like the story said earlier. He said, I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna show them, come back. You saw me getting better. You saw that I'm ready, prepared. I'm a leader now. I'm ready to go out. And where's Tahiti? That's what the teacher asked. Where's Tahiti? Like, why are you asking me that? Well, it doesn't make any sense. And so they go back and try again. This last time, grumbling. It's crazy. Like I'm working really hard. And so the person comes back to the teacher and says, I don't care what you say. I'm ready. I'm a wayfinder. I have this identity. I'm going out there. I've dreamed about this. I am going to this destination. I'm going out to the water. And the teacher says, okay, so where's Tahiti? And the person said, in my mind. And the teacher said, you're ready. So pull that up. Think about that in your leadership journey. You don't need to ask for permission. You don't need to, there's a certain time where you're ready. Be trained and be ready. The main part of your leadership journey is that you know you're going somewhere and you have a destination in mind. And then you pursue it with vigor and grit and resilience and new skills. And I like to end it. You may never end up in Tahiti. That's the craziest part. You may never end up being the leader that you've envisioned, but just the pursuit and belief in yourself, you will at least end up in Hawaii or some other island. You know, like Christopher Columbus, he was in India, he was in the Bahamas. It makes no sense. You will end up somewhere. And so think about that. Think about, yes, use the model of people and leaders that you want to be, and say that's the vision of myself that I want to be. Those are the skills I want to be. That's the type of leader I want to be. But at the end of the day, I'm going to go on it, try my best, and then you'll look around and say, oh, well, I am a leader. You wake up one day and you're like, ah, damn, I was a leader. Someone calls me a leader, right? And so think about that every day. Just being the best version of yourself in a pursuit of something that you have a vision for, you automatically will advance. You will automatically become a better version of yourself and be the leader. And so think about that as you go through it. Don't change and be yourself. I really want to say I appreciate the opportunity to talk to every one of y'all today. You know, this really, I love that when people have smiles and make me feel good about myself, but this is really a pleasure. And I want to keep you up from eating no more. You know, I want to say grace too, but I want to say thank you so much, and I'm really appreciative that you gave me the opportunity, even in December, to come back. You could have let this go and say, oh, it didn't happen, but I appreciate it, and thank you so much. And thank you, and I love to connect with anyone needs support, or anyone wants to connect with the mayor of Mason, you know where to find me. But thank you, and have a blessed weekend. Thank you very much.